Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary Lachance, an energy healer, spiritual teacher, and therapist. I am your host for this thought-provoking series, and am dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times. If you have a group that you think will be interested in what I have to offer, I'm available to come to your group and teach. We will give you the contact information at the end of the show. Please visit my website and click on My TV Show, where you will find a wealth of information about this show. These shows are now available for you to watch free on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We are constantly adding new shows, so keep checking back. We are also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. Please like our page for the latest information about the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Okay, tonight, December 14th, 2017, is our 200th show. And my guests are here to celebrate it with me. The title of the show tonight is Our Path to Awareness. And our guests are Ken and Cathy. How do you say it? Freschi?
Freschi. Yep.
Freschi. Welcome.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Welcome, Cathy.
Thanks
Welcome,
for having
Ken.
us.
Okay. Let me give you a little short bio about each one. This is about Cathy. She's a certified Reiki master teacher and medical intuitive. She currently offers energy healing sessions at Naturopathic Wellness in Hamden and in Wallingford. She has also worked at Middlesex Hospital's Cancer Center, as well as the hospital's hospice setting. In working with her clients, Cathy empowers them to achieve what it is they want in their lives, helping them to release any old mindsets or beliefs that may be blocking them. That's wonderful. Ken was a mechanic for 37 years and co-owned a shop for 25 years, which he sold to pursue his spiritual path. He has written 2 books, Our Walk to Eternity and Time to Listen, sharing divine messages he has received. He is also a certified spiritual counselor, an Akashic record reader, and a Reiki master teacher. They both have attended the Robat Center for Advancement of Energy Healing and the Healing and Harmony Center Psychic Institute for Higher Learning. And in front of us on the table are the 2 books, and I hope you'll get them. Are they available on Amazon?
Yes.
Oh, they're available on Amazon. Okay. Now, questions. You want to give us a little bit of information before we start these questions about what made you become spiritual, what made you get into what you're doing now and everything. You were just a couple living a normal, regular life, right? Mm-hmm. You were Catholic, you were going to church, and you were doing your thing, and something happened to change your life. You had a spiritual awakening. Can you give our audience a little bit of information about that?
Sure. For me, unbeknownst to me, it started when I was 27. I was diagnosed with cancer. It was stage 3. I just had surgery, which I was very lucky. I didn't have to have any chemo or radiation. But in looking back at all the synchronicities, my husband and I started dating 3 months before I was diagnosed. And actually, it was just kind of a godsend for me because my family, I think they were just emotionally detached from the whole idea of their sister having cancer, and I really wasn't free to discuss it. I was free to discuss it, but I was kind of shut down just because it was just upsetting. So every night he'd be there helping me out and kind of letting me cry if I needed to cry, or if, am I going to die or not, you know,
God.
So anyways, so it started then, but I didn't really, you know, we kind of still were doing our church thing, and you know, we were thankful and everything. I felt very lucky, and so right after that, well, and a year after that, we got engaged. The following year, we got married, and I wasn't even really supposed to have children. I mean, they were kind of telling me that, you know, try, but we can't, you know, there's a good chance you may not. Well, 3 months into, 3 months again, I was pregnant with our first daughter, and then 2 years later, the second daughter. I had no problems at all having my 2 daughters. So then it led more into their issues, starting at like 5 and 6 years old. My older daughter having some learning difficulties and attention problems in school. Younger one with lots of anxiety and a lot of stomach issues. So conventional medicine just wasn't working for a lot of their things, and so I kind of figured out about naturopaths and acupuncture and energy healing and
all
changing their
right?
diet. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Changing their diet, very important.
Yeah, and that made a huge difference. So then, you know, I started kind of incorporating it for myself as well, figuring if I'm doing it for them, we're all doing it. So that kind of changed things around for us. And then when my younger daughter was in middle school, and you can chip in whenever you want on any of this if I'm missing anything, but when our younger daughter was in middle school, she had high anxiety. She was out of school for a length of time. And I worked in a school, and one of the paras that was working there saw I used to come in every morning upset, and she'd say, "What's the matter?" And so I was kind of telling her what was going on with my daughter, and she said, "You know, you have to have her come see my sister. You know, she does energy healing." And at the time, I had no idea really what it was all about, but I was kind of desperate because I did not want her on medication for anxiety at the age of 11.
Right.
So we tried it. You know, it was down in this woman's basement, and I was just like, what am I doing? You know, there was part of me that was like, we got to do this, we got to try it. And then there was a part of me that was like, what am I doing? So I obviously went with her and, you know, watched the whole thing. And I realized at that time, in watching her get her first energy healing session, that, yeah, there's just more going on here than meets the eye. You know, I just got a whole different perspective just by sitting there observing the session. So, make a long story short, she did improve after time. So then I started sending my other daughter, and then I started going, and you know, time went by, and they had their different issues, but definitely corrected with the alternative ways of doing it. So I decided when they were in high school that I wanted to go get my Reiki 1. And again, I was led by different people. Like, I didn't just all of a sudden say, I'm going to do Reiki 1. Like, somebody suggested it, and then I did it, sort of thing. But I knew I had to do it. But I still didn't know where I was going with it. So I did that, and then I just kind of did it on myself, really didn't explore doing it on others that much. And I was still busy really doing the mother thing anyway. So then I went for my Reiki 2 and the Reiki Master. But in the Reiki 1 class, this is where his whole
This is where my
begins.
story comes in.
So I'll let you.
Most of my spiritual path has been kind of under duress. I kind of resisted most of it. Because she told me she wanted to do Reiki. I'm like, okay, fine, I don't even know what it is, but whatever. So she was told to have me come to the first class. It was her, the teacher, and they wanted me as I call myself, the experimental rat. So I'm laying there on the table, and she's doing whatever she's doing, and I'm thinking, okay, whatever. And the woman stops and tells her to stop and says, they're telling me to ask you, me, if I want to be opened up to receive messages. I'm like, whatever. I really.
I mean,
Do you know
sure.
what they meant when they
I
said
had no clue what
neither
she's
one of us
talking
were
about.
Really. I mean, I didn't know a lot about the third eye, and you know, I hadn't really delved into the chakras.
So she did whatever she did, and then fast forward 2 years later, I wake up to a vision of her grandmother and her aunt, who had both had passed away, and the aunt was holding this what appeared to be a chrome crucifix, saying, "Give this to Cathy." Passes it to the grandmother, says, "Give this to Cathy. Tell her not to be afraid." Because that night we had been talking about her quitting her job or going into this Reiki, what are people going to think, and things like that. Well, 2 days later, that crucifix turns up in her mother's house, and her mother was thinking of hanging it somewhere, which it came to mind. I went to look at it. It was the exact same one I saw. And I had said, well, that's on Julie's crucifix. And she says, no, that belonged to Grandma, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I saw Aunt Julie hand that to Grandma. And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Well, come to find out, her father comes home and says, where'd you find my aunt's crucifix? So that was the start of a lot of visions, messages, and things like that.
It was 2 years from the time you had the opening.
Yeah.
2 years passed, and then this happened.
Right. And it was about 4 or 5 years before we figured out, why did this all start happening to me?
Yeah.
Well, you were being prepared. That's what it was.
Right.
You weren't ready at that particular
Right, so I had already
time.
written my second book, and we're going like, where is this stuff coming from? And then she goes, I remember. And we went all the way back to that first.
When you started receiving the messages, which we're going to talk about, was that after 2 years, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I won't interrupt you anymore. So go ahead.
No, that's about
what
the
happened.
gist of it. Correct.
So that led you to a spiritual life now, more than religious. You're not attending the church anymore, right? And you have what you do now for spirituality. The groups you started?
Well, yeah, we do meditation groups. He does spiritual counseling as well. He's taken, gotten a certification in that. I like to incorporate a lot of what we've gotten from these books in my sessions with clients. I don't think, in fact, I'll tell the clients, it's not just about you coming in and lying down and my doing my thing. It's about my facilitating what it is you want to change.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good.
So these books have been a good guide for us because as he wrote them, we were going through our own things in life, and so when he got these certain messages, we kind of incorporated what we were going through as well. And it just gave us all different perspectives, and and making us really look at our fears and our old beliefs that no longer served us. Like, why now I realize this is what keeps me from doing that. Where our fears came from, our old beliefs, and.
Yeah.
I mean, I would get
There's a lot of that.
to add to that, I would get the messages. I would resist what they're saying because it wasn't the way I thought.
You
it
were
wasn't
Catholic, right?
My
You were going to
background.
Catholic church.
Correct, and I wasn't.
Were
I went to Catholic church, and there was a point in my life where I believed in God because I wanted there to be a God. Where I believe, you know what I'm saying? But now I know. It's a knowing instead of a belief out of want. It's a belief out of knowing. It's
That's
changed
good.
quite
That's good. Yeah.
It's a big difference.
So it wasn't really satifying you when you were going at the time, or did you not even think about it?
Well, there were
Well, you
questions.
thought about it more
yeah,
than I did.
I mean, she kind of went through the motion, but I'm thinking like, what do we, how do you know if you even picked the right religion? Because every religion says this is the one you have to believe.
Right,
And if
exactly.
you
This is the only
if you go
one.
from Christianity to Muslims to Buddhism to Hinduism, I mean, there's all different beliefs. Which one is correct? And there's not one that's correct.
Do you know how I weigh it now? Finally, after all my studies and learning and everything, any religion or any group that you join, and they say to you, "This is the only way back to God." Run, don't walk.
Well,
run away from
I'm a
them.
big anti-rules person. So when people
Because-
start giving me rules like that, it's
Yes.
like, okay, well,
That's why I love the path I follow, because that's one thing they said.
Well, that's the difference with spirituality. Religion is based on, rules, regulations, what you have to do to belong to the club, where religion is the foundation for spirituality, but spirituality does not incorporate religion at all.
No.
I mean, we're worthy, we're deserving, we're divine beings in ourselves. And
Most religions control people out of fear. They use fear to keep you with them and control. Do you agree with that?
yes.
Yes. Okay. What were we going to say?
No, I was going to say I went to all Catholic schools, and honestly, I mean, I never bucked it, I never questioned it, but then when all this started happening, I just felt more alive.
That's good.
It just brought a whole different meaning to my life.
And I don't want this to be a religion bashing thing, because if religion
No,
is what
no, we're
you
not
use for your
bashing.
moral compass, that's great. And if that serves you, that's great. But there's a lot of people that their questions aren't answered by religion.
Right.
And a lot of lives have been disrupted by the rules and regulations with religion.
Well, that's why I asked you the question, so that if the people out there are thinking to themselves, I don't find satisfaction here, but I don't know what to do. And that's why I asked you the question, how you felt, what you did, and so forth. That's the reason. It wasn't to bash anything,
Right.
just so that they can get some answers. I'm always thinking, what are the people thinking out there, and try
Right.
to satisfy
And
them.
my books have a Christian slant, but I think the messages come to me in a way I'm going to be receptive of. So if I was Hindu or I was Jewish, they would probably have a different slant. But the messages say the same thing, because I've had people who were Jewish read my book and say, this was written for me. And I'm thinking, how could that be when seems like it's more in line with my belief system.
You just said it's a Christian slant, and you brought something to mind that someone brought up to me recently. We were talking about it. When you say Christian, like if I say I believe in Christ, am I Christian? Yes. Some people think when you say you're Christian, it means you're Catholic. It doesn't mean that. It just means you believe in Christ.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're born again or you belong to any religion. Christian means I believe Christ, I follow his teachings. Am I right or wrong?
And he did not come here to teach a religion.
Right. He did not. He came here to, you were telling me out there, Christ came here.
Oh, well, yeah, I did receive a message that, Jesus came to earth, which I believe that occurred, not to show us how amazing he is, instead to show us how amazing we are.
Right.
Because we are part and parcel of, I use the word God. People use the word source, universe, whatever you want to call
I use
it.
God
We
too.
try. Being humans, we have to put a label on everything, and then you have to try to describe: is God a he or is he a she? Or and that just gets into it's beyond the description that we can come up with in our human state of mind at this point.
So, all right. So you told us how you started on your spiritual path. Okay, so what are some of your new beliefs now embarking on this journey of yours?
New beliefs. Well, one being that I don't have to be afraid to stand up for myself, for one. I mean, I kind of was a very compliant daughter in a strict household, and I just did kind of what was, I don't want to say demanded of me, but what was asked of me. So I kind of grew up in a situation where I just felt like it's not worth saying anything to upset other people. Just do your own. Just do what you have to do to get the approval. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know that.
Keep things. I was always like the peacemaker. Let's just keep peace. Let's not rub anybody the wrong way. So that doesn't fly. When you're in jobs and you have people who take advantage of that, you have to learn to stand up for yourself. So that was a big part of it. And also taking the time, like you're going to probably be asking further questions, like what we do for ourselves and supporting ourselves and all this, that I'm worthy of spending time for myself before others. I grew up where I did for others, and that's probably why I was depleted and got cancer at 27, because I was always helping everybody else and really didn't do anything for myself.
That's a good thing
That
for
was
the
a big
audience to
lesson.
hear. Yes.
That was a big lesson for me.
Well, yeah, just to add to that, I mean, we're like wells, and we keep giving, and we're never replenished. And this is from message in my book. This is not something I believed 10 years ago. I was like, you do for everybody else first. But you get depleted, and you're doing things out of guilt and resentment. Where if you take care of yourself first, how much better are you if you're fulfilled for everyone around you?
Right, exactly.
As opposed to doing things out of guilt, resentment, this is the rules you have to follow, and people have to take care of themselves first, and then everybody around them is going to be that much better off.
Especially in our work, and especially in our work. If we're not balanced, how can we help other people be in balance?
Yeah.
It's really important that we come first. And
Okay, so you tell us what you do now, and what do you do now? When did your messages start to come, and what do you feel about them? What can you tell the audience about them?
Well, like I said, I resisted a lot of them, but my beliefs have changed in
How
some
did they
respects.
come to you? How did they come?
How did my message
Yeah,
come to me?
start with that.
Initially, they started, I would wake up to like words being spoken in my ear. Like it's almost like someone's, like first I thought it was maybe her talking to me, or it's like I hear a voice and I wake up and I was compelled to write. Everything I do, I write. Even when I do readings on people, I'm sitting there doodling because that's just occupying my mind, so I'm open to what's coming through. I'm really writing nothing at that point, but the message is, what I would do is I was compelled to write. It could be 4 o'clock in the morning. I start writing, and when I started thinking about what I'm writing, I stopped. And then I read what I had written, and it's like, it's not in my vernacular. The words I don't normally use. I mean, it was just like, I'm like, where's this stuff coming from? So I had a collection of probably about a couple of months worth, and I started showing them to one of my customers who I knew was kind of into different things. We came into my shop. He's like, where are these things coming from? And I wouldn't tell him. And then finally, after a number of weeks, I told him where they were coming from. He's like, how could that be? How could you be and it was like so something different was happening, and then it would be like there'd be a situation where she's sitting there thinking about something, and I'd be upstairs taking a shower. I'd come down with a whole message that fit into exactly what she had just been praying for, asking for, and it's like I had no idea what she was talking.
Yeah, I didn't tell him. I would just say, if there's any way you could send through Ken a message or some sort of clarity I need on such and such, and yeah, he would get it, and I'm like, wow. So for anyone out there who doubts that their prayers are being heard, they're being heard.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
Well, I used to joke, we always were taught when as kids to go to bed, say our prayers, and then go to sleep. Well, the problem is we said our prayers and go to sleep. We never listened to what they had to say.
Yeah.
So now
Very
they started
good.
waking me up.
That's very good.
I mean, you're going to pray, I need this, I want this, or thank you
Help
for this,
me with
thank you for
this,
that.
yeah.
Help me with this. What guidance can you give me? And then we fall asleep.
That's very
Just
good.
sit there and listen, and
I love
maybe
it.
you'll
I
hear
love it.
something.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's a
that's the
whole
difference.
different way of looking at it. I believe your guides are around you all the time. God's always watching over. I believe in the angels helping and things like that.
Yeah.
But you actually, through free will, have to call them in on a daily basis.
You're right. They won't
because
force
they're not
themselves on
going
you.
to step
No.
in and.
Right.
Total agreement with
So
you.
you got to have a communication going with them. I mean, I don't drive down the road talking to them, but you know what I mean. Just have them in your thoughts.
In your dialogue,
and yeah.
And I like tell people too, there's a difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer
Okay.
is putting out what you want, and meditation is really just being and listening and accepting.
Yes, there you
So-
go. That's right. That's right. That's what you have to do. Pray and meditate. Pray and meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read something to go after our needs more than our wants. We want. But what do
Wants
I need?
always change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always say to God, what I need. Tell me what I need.
What's for my highest good?
Yes, for
Yeah.
my highest good. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Once your needs are fulfilled, you have no more wants.
There you go.
I
that's
wanted
true.
the big yard. I've got the big yard. Now I'm 55, and I'm like, this big yard's like too big. You know what I mean? So it's like, your wants change. Your needs really do.
Yeah.
And it's a spiritual thing, because this physical existence we're participating in is basically allowing us to have an experience.
I always say, this
Yeah.
is what I would really like. But what is your will? Mm-hmm. Tell me what your will is, because I can get myself in trouble. Whatever your will is, that's what I want. Yeah, things like that. All right, so you started receiving these messages 2 years after they opened your third eye.
Evidently so.
Right, and you started putting them into books.
Correct.
And I found, and I'm reading his books, and I found that very strangely, everything that he puts in this book, everything that you're getting from, is everything I have in the group I follow. It's the same. I'm going, wow, I can't believe this. It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Well,
consistency.
I found a lot of consistency in other books that I've never read before
Yeah.
since until I wrote these. One of which is the Course in Miracles. Now I don't know how many people are
Exactly.
familiar with that book.
Yeah.
But I kind of say like my books are like the Course in Miracles for dummies. It's very right to the point.
Yes.
Not
Basic, yeah.
super wordy. I
Right.
mean, it's easy to understand.
Oh, it is. I found it beautiful.
And,
I found them wonderful.
the messages change as I evolve too,
Yep.
because my first book talks about life's a classroom, you're here to learn, and blah, 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 blah. And my second book kind of goes, okay, well, we got you to believe that. Here's what life is really about. You are here to remember who and what you truly are.
Exactly.
And that's a divine spiritual being. And we have to be able to see the divinity in everyone around us in every event. Because there's no good, there's no bad, there just is. So the message is contained in the event. What do you need to gain from that event? What do you need to gain from that person in your life? Be it perceived to be positive or negative. Are they playing their part for you to have the experience you came here to have?
Exactly. It's funny you say that. We're here to remember who we are, because lately I've been hearing that from different people. The last guest I had, Dr. Sensenig, who's a prominent naturopath, he's having a spiritual awakening. And on the last show, that's the last thing we said before we closed. We're here to remember who we are. And we said it together. This is wonderful. I mean, Christ said he would go through as many channels as he could to get his words out, to get his message out.
And
So
that's why they're consistent. It's
Yes.
just the different ways that he's putting it out.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, all right, so let me see. All right, here you are, a mechanic. You had your own business. And look at you now. So what do you do now? You don't have the business anymore, or do you
No,
still have
I,
it?
no, I
Say
don't.
How that all happened.
I mean, yeah, I could tell you how that happened. I was
Okay.
driving to work one day, and I'm kind of, I'm kind of like, I don't like tiptoe around, even God, I guess.
No, I don't either.
No, I mean, I tell him like it is. So I'm driving to work one day, and I go, okay, God, you're in control? Fine. I don't think I belong in a shop anymore. But if you want me to stay here, I'll stay here. 3 days later, I get a phone call from a developer who wants to buy the location my shop's at. I'm the tenant. I'm not the landlord. I don't own the property. It's very easy to figure out who owns the property. I had 10 years left on a lease. By calling me, they could have created a chaos. So I put him in touch with a business partner of mine who owned the property. A few days later, another developer called, wanted a location. Within 10 days, I had 3 developers wanted a location where my business was, which nobody wanted that spot since 1971 when it was built, including myself. So you ask for it, be careful what you ask for, because you
Right.
get what you ask for. And I just saw that as like, this has got to work. And, I had the fears of like, what am I going to do for a job? What's my employees going to do? I had people working for me for over 20 years. So.
I want our audience, because they're going to identify with you. What made you come to this decision? I mean, obviously,
Well, I mean,
it was scary.
that was an obvious thing, but I figure, okay, well, I asked for it, you put this out there, and they're never going to put something in front of you that is going to destroy you or ruin you, and challenges are meant to defeat you, they're meant to redirect you, and I was being redirected.
Because I know people you put the message, you told God, and then 3 days later you started getting the calls. Some people would go, oh, no, I don't think I should. I'd change your mind and walk away. But you kept on going.
You gotta want it bad enough. And this was going on in my life, and I don't pat myself on the back for these books other than the fact that I took it upon myself to write them. I think we're all open to receive messages. We're all open to receive something in our own way. I mean, don't go out and try to be a medium or a psychic or get messages. Allow it to occur.
Right.
Be in acceptance for how you're going to receive your message. Who knows?
Yes.
You might just receive them from. Who knows how it's going to work?
I know.
Everybody's different, but I don't think we don't look at ourselves as that amazing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what's occurred for us.
What's occurred, right?
Yeah.
But I don't look at myself compared to you or my neighbors that look how much better off I am because I can get. It's not that at all.
No, and I never got that from you at all.
And even
Very
from
humble.
the sale of the shop, I had all this equipment I had to get rid of, lifts and inventory and everything, and that all went. I sold everything down to the garbage cans.
How were you feeling? Were you a little?
I was shocked. I was kind of like, I was still in it like, yeah. But now, like, once a year went by and 2 years went by, I'm like, what did I do? Should I have done? So I do have my fears. I just still have the financial worries. I don't have the paycheck I had as, when I was working. And it's scary.
Well, if I can interrupt too, it's letting go of the old and bringing in the new. He, when he's saying he sold everything in the shop, with the shop, he kept saying, I'll open a small garage somewhere. Like,
I wanted to keep a lift or keep the welder. I figured I'd open up a small place.
And every time he thought about that, he realized, all that stuff sold, so I could not.
They put me out of business. I'd say God put me out of business.
And every time he did a side job, like at our home, something would go wrong. So
it's like this is not what you do anymore.
You have to look at the signs. I mean, for me too, I was pushed out of my job. I had asked before I started the Reiki 1 class, what am I here for? Like, I didn't even know why I asked that. I just put it out there. Why am I here? Like, what am I here for? And so after doing all this Reiki stuff in 2010. I had been in a job. I was kind of unhappy in it, but I liked it because it worked well with my kids' schedules at the time. I had summers off when they had off and whatever. But I worked with a woman who was totally opposite me, very negative and very not work conscientious as I was. So she took advantage of my good work ethic. But anyways, the last year I was there, a new principal came in, and in the beginning of the year, he kind of saw what was going on with the two of us, and he'd say, I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. I'm going to make sure that things are even between the two of you, the workload's even, whatever. But he didn't. He didn't follow through, and see, this is where I didn't stand in my power enough to go in and say to him, hey, you said you were going to make this work for the two of us, and, I don't see any change. But I kept just like putting up with it. Well, anyways, the end of the year comes. It's June, and he always brings in, the principals always bring in the children, new students coming in the fall to meet the office staff. So I'm sitting at my desk, the other secretary's sitting at her desk, and he comes by, walks right by me like I wasn't even there, and introduces them all to the other woman. And I thought, okay, if this isn't a sign, what is? It's like I'm not here. And then I kept thinking, I'm not gonna be here. I'm not gonna be here, right? So anyways, I went home, I was stewing, I said to him, that's it, I'm not going back there, I've had it, And he's like, well, don't you think you should say something to him for treating you like that? So it took me 3 days, but I finally went into him and I said, why did you do that? Why did you bring all those students by me and pretend like you didn't pretend I wasn't there, you just walked by me like I wasn't there. And he said, well, what took you so long to come in and ask? That was his answer. I thought, wow. And then after I sent my, resignation letter in, he called me and he goes, I don't know why I did anything of what I did. I don't know why I didn't back you. I don't know why I didn't acknowledge you with those students. And I said, I know why. Because I'm supposed to be out of here. And that was the only thing that was going to get me out of here, is for you to be totally non-supportive of me.
That?
And this is where I talk about, you have to see the divinity in every event. Most people would say, well, that guy was, did this wrong or that wrong. Even an abusive spouse, if you think about it, there might be a soul contract between the two people involved, that the abuser is giving you, the victim, an opportunity to stand in her power and say, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm leaving this marriage, or who knows what the story is. That's why we could judge the action on a societal level, but we can't judge the soul for what they're doing. It might be a free will thing, but it also might be something deeper. This principal was in that school for 1 year.
The year
and he
to
went
get me
back
out of there.
to the school he came from.
He left a couple of months after I did.
So
he's there just for
unknowingly,
that.
on a conscious level, he played his part, and he had no
In my
clue.
being intuitive, I knew there was
It's
some.
amazing.
I knew there was a reason he was there when I first was introduced to him. I'm like, oh, there's a connect. I just had a feeling there was some sort of connection, but I had no idea that it was going to play out as it did. But yeah, I sensed something.
If you are aware, be aware, the signs are there. You have
But
to.
the awareness is big, but then you have to put yourself in a position of acceptance. Because if you're not in a position of acceptance, you will never find peace in your life with anything.
There you go.
And you could find peace in your life driving home and finding your house burning to the ground. If you're in acceptance, okay, what is this? What message is
What's
it?
this
I'm not
mean?
going to say you're going to get the message, or I know what the message is, but there's something there. Just accept the fact that there's something there that you need to see. You're being redirected for whatever.
That's exactly what people should do.
And I'm not telling people
Really?
to run out and quit their jobs.
No,
because,
no.
I mean, what I did, it was different. I had the signs. I had a very successful business. There was no reason for me to get out. People to this day think I was crazy to close. But it was just, it was time. You have things that happen in your life where you can't, when you resist it, you have chaos. And that can happen physically, that can happen in your life. When you resist the changes that are being brought for you, and that's part of your purpose here. You have to, you don't know we don't know what our purpose is here. Everybody asks me when they come to me, well, what's my purpose? Well, I have a hard enough time finding out what my own purpose is. But let's see what comes across your path, and then we discuss that, and they start seeing it. Oh, well, maybe, when you look back, you can see where everything fell into place.
There's a lot of synchronicity, even as we went along, too. It was like, wow, this is why this happened. But it was like afterwards, you see,
I always think about it like we're moving on this, because I like a conveyor belt and I use it, and then a door opens and we're looking in that door, and that's our opportunity, and now we should jump through the door and see what is. But some people won't. I'm afraid.
Well, it's fair.
And keep on,
It's
and then
fair
the door will
because
shut, and that opportunity is not going to come again.
Well, a lot
for
of that's a
while.
conditioning brought on by our parents, which is
Yep.
no fault of theirs, because they was brought on by their parents
Right, it's the only
and
thing they
society
knew.
at the moment,
Yeah.
and we did the same with our kids. We would have raised our kids much differently if we were on this path when they were
Right.
born, as opposed to having. They were our teachers.
Yeah,
They're
they
the
really
ones
were.
that brought us to this awareness, because their issues weren't being taken care of by typical medicine. So he sought out naturopaths, which lead you to energy workers, Reiki practitioners, shiatsu practitioners, all this, what I thought was out there stuff, which
Right.
really isn't that out there.
I'm sure a lot of people out there think the same thing
And
right now.
I'm telling you, if you could convince me
Yeah.
Because
Honestly.
I have an opinion about everything, and my opinion was right. And that's one thing that I've changed a lot. I got a much more open mind than I had 10 years ago.
And it's how amazing the two of you, life partners. You must have incarnated together for this reason, supporting each other, having the same experience, awakening together. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's
Well,
really
it's funny.
wonderful.
My oldest
really is.
sister was married to her oldest brother, and they were
Wow.
married for 10 years before we even started.
Well, you knew at a young age that somehow we were.
Yeah, I
gonna-
met
we
her
were
when I was
gonna-
14, but just like, this is, my sister's boyfriend's sister. Like, okay, whatever, big deal.
Well, I feel
But,
that, I think I was telling you this, some people, couples together like that, or their love is like that, supportive of each other, your love is inclusive. In other words, you reach out to other people and bring them into your love that you have for each other and expand it. There are people who come together and their love is exclusive. They don't want to bother with anyone else. It's just the two of them for each other, and that burns out later on. But that's a beautiful relationship, and that's what people should look for when they're young people, when they're getting ready to settle down. Okay? So anyway, what do you do to support yourself now? What
Well,
happened?
I do the readings, and I do spiritual
What kind
counseling
of
and things like
readings?
that. Akashic record reading.
Oh, I want to do a show on Akashi records, and I think I found the person to do it with. But can you give us a little bit of an idea now about what
Well,
that
to
means?
oversimplify, your Akashic records are records of your soul, and if you subscribe to the school of thought that there's past lives, which I think there definitely are, there's more evidence to past lives than there is that we come in one lifetime, die, and
Exactly.
go off to wherever. But it gets into that. Just imagine a library and all the books are about you, past, present, and future. And I do Akashic readings a little differently than some people, but I don't know how detailed you want me to get into that now. But people come to me
So
with
give a
questions,
understanding,
issues,
yeah.
and we have a conversation back and forth like we're having now, except I am in your records and I am drawing that information that I respond with from your masters, teachers, guides. But you have to ask the question, because if you don't ask the question, you're either not ready to know, don't need to know, or don't want to know the answer.
Well, you say you draw from. Well, I guess this is probably going to take us into another show if I ask too many questions. But
Right.
let's do a show about it, because I think people are going, Kasha
Yeah.
Records, what's that? How is he getting it from there? We want the audience to understand. So let's plan on doing a show. Think we can do a whole show on that?
Probably, yeah.
Because that's very interesting. I kind of think of it like a big computer in the sky. Nothing is ever lost. Every
Yeah,
single
however
thing
you
that's
want to
ever do-
describe it. I mean, they say the past, present, and future all happen at the same time. Time is linear here; it's cylindrical in reality. So it's interesting. It's pretty interesting stuff that comes up, and I'm shocked by what comes through because I don't filter what comes through. What comes through my thought process, I just
And he
say.
doesn't remember. You can ask him 10 minutes later.
Yeah, and
what
I
did you
won't
mean by
remember
that? And he'll
because
be like, what?
it's private
yeah.
stuff. It's your stuff. And if I was going to do a reading with you, it would be in private with you, not with a spouse, not with a friend, because some of that information you may not want other people to know. This is your information.
Okay.
And it's not like I can kiss and tell on the way home, call my wife, hey, guess what I got? Because I forget. People call me up a half hour later. So I really don't remember.
So they come to you for advice on things?
Not necessarily advice, but if you're Akashic records are good. It's not. Some people come and they just want a past life, like a past life regression.
Oh, okay.
That is not what it's about.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't think past lives serve any purpose unless you're stuck on something in this lifetime.
Right.
That might be holding you back. But they'll come with like issues in their lives. I mean, of course, people say, "Well, should I go out with this guy?" And they're not going to. Those are free will choices.
Do they come to you with those kind of questions?
Yeah, but it's like you're not going to get information on that because it's a free will choice on their part and the other person's part.
And if I
Right.
can interrupt too, people are coming for a higher perspective. That's what you're going to get from Akashic readings.
Well, the way I do,
Yeah.
my readings empower you. They guide you to a certain extent, and it's not. I don't look at it as entertainment. Okay, it's not something to do lightly.
So would they come to you? I mean, I'm trying to say, if somebody wants to say, all right, I'm going to call Ken and make an appointment, why would they do that? What do they
If
want
they had
from
issues
you?
in their life, they're stagnating, they're stuck in a job, they're wondering if they're in
Okay,
a rut, what's
that's it.
going on,
If they're
or
not
I have
happy,
this going
yeah.
on in my life, and it gives them a different perspective on how to look at what's occurring in their lives.
Okay.
Or even past stuff that has occurred that they haven't worked through, like that one woman with her response when you said one thing, I don't even know what it was, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I've been going to to a psychotherapist for 6 years, and never did I hear that."
Oh yeah, that happened at a fair. The woman held up 6 fingers. She goes, 6 years I've been going to a therapist, and no one ever said that to me. She said, I'm done. I don't remember what I said. I wish I did, because I'd use it on everybody. But it worked for her. You know what I'm saying? So I've had yet to have anybody not get anything on anyone, but it's pretty interesting stuff.
So you do that for a living. Anything else?
Well, I'm a contractor where I remodel garage interiors.
Okay.
So that justifies my physical existence.
Right.
Which sometimes gets in the way of what I really think I should be doing. I've got my 3rd book in the works, and I've had it in the works for probably 2 years, 3 years.
Something like that.
I'm up to a couple hundred pages now, so 300 pages. So I've got to buckle down and get that completed. And that kind of brings together all what's in the first 2 and
Plus some.
and plus some, yeah.
Okay, so this is what you do to support yourself now on your journey. You do your Reiki and the healing and all that, and you do your books and you do the readings, right? And you have these meetings that people could come if like-minded.
We hold a group of like-minded spiritual people, and we kind of have like a discussion time first, and then we have some sort of meditation. And sometimes we pick themes, other times we just see kind of how the night flows and what we need to focus on, if anything, when they're meditating.
Yeah, if we struggle with a theme, I'll go in my Akashic records myself at some point, the day or 2 before, and say, okay, what do you want us to work on tonight? And I'll get something, and sure enough, somebody was there.
They had to hear that.
That needed to hear what came through.
Wow.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And we also incorporate sound healing with the meditations too. He has the
crystal bowls.
The crystal bowls that he uses, so that also helps
Okay.
people.
So can you tell us any more about some of the powerful divine signs you've gotten on your path, so people will kind of know what to expect, or what to look for, what to realize?
Well, we mentioned the 2 about how our jobs came to an end. But for me, years after, 25 years after I had my cancer, I really didn't understand the purpose of why I had it until I started doing Reiki. And then I had called Middlesex Hospital to see if I could go into their integrative medicine department and do Reiki there for the cancer patients, inpatients as well. And the woman who answered the phone said, "No, we're all set right now. We already have a Reiki practitioner." But there happened to be another woman in there who, come to find out, was the ex-wife of one of his employees at Midas for 30 years. He worked with him. And so she said, "Oh, who was," she happened to say to the girl after she hung up, who was that?" "Oh, somebody just wanted to do Reiki here, but we're all set." And she goes, "Well, who was it?" And I met this girl twice, that's it. And so she gave my name, and she's like, "Oh no, you got to call her back. You got to have her come in here. Try her, just call her back. And I'm sitting here until you call her back." So the woman called me back, and she said, "Come on in, we'll tell you a little bit about how our program works and whatever." So lo and behold, I was there for 3 years, and what I found was my healing with this whole cancer thing was, 25, 30 years later, is I would see a cancer patient who had almost like an identical experience as mine. Like it was my mirror. Like they'd be talking like the same experience, like not being able to talk about it, not being able to work through it. And so a lot of my healing, really that was a sign for me, come on, look at your experience now, look at it. Emotionally look at it. What did you feel? Did you feel fear? Like I didn't go through any of that. I literally went to the experience, got married, had my kids, focus was on family, that was it. And I never really explored my emotions around that. So the sign, to me that was a powerful sign, just the patients that were coming in to see me with the problems they had and how to go on with life and should they retire or not. And I always encourage them and tell them it's a redirection, really. It's a redirection in their life. that it's an experience their body is having at that time to maybe seek something else that maybe you're missing in your life. And I don't know, that to me, that was pretty powerful when I'd see a patient that had identical experiences as mine.
So what would you say is your biggest challenge in this work that you're doing?
Stay on task with my mindset. I mean, I have a hard time following the messages that are in my books myself. Because, you have this pattern of being X, Y, and Z for 50 years, and all of a sudden you have to start looking at things differently. But it's now, it becomes, I'm at least aware of when I'm not looking at things from the right perspective, or looking at things from the perspective the books suggest. I hesitate to say right, because there's no right, there's no wrong, there just is.
There just is, yeah. You're right. So how would you describe some of the things that Spirit says to you? Does this happen every single night, or does it?
No, this I could go for. I could get some repeatedly. When I first started getting my messages, if I didn't write it down, it would follow me in my head, like you get a song stuck in your head.
Yes.
Well, eventually that goes away. These did not go away. So it's like I write it down and poof, it's gone. It's almost like when I do a reading, I forget what I said and that's it. And people say, well, your message, I said, I got to read it again. Because I'm not writing them. They're coming through me. They're not mine.
They're not yours,
so
yeah,
I
that's
have
what
to
people don't
really
understand.
read them again and again and again to retain it. Now I can get stuff as I'm cutting the lawn. They just come anytime. So they were getting me when I was open to it, which was in that sleep dream state when you're like kind of awake, but you're kind of asleep, because I was out of the way. Well, now I'm open to let this stuff come through, so they could tap me on the shoulder whenever they want and say, hey, listen. And a lot of times they're basically putting me in my place.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's like, what are you doing here? What's with the attitude? What's with the, whatever it is? And I'll get a whole big message on, one example was on judgment. I once got a message that said, judgment wears many masks. You asked for a blessing, you received a blessing, now you're judging how you got the blessing and from who the blessing came from.
Oh,
So
really?
just, you ask for something, you get it, don't judge how it appears. Because we really don't know, once again, the backstory. Why is that happening the way it's happening? Because we always have these preconceived notions of how we're going to,
we think we have everything under control. Like we know how it's going to happen, but it doesn't always happen how we think.
No, exactly. So step to the side, be in acceptance of what's coming down your path, be aware that it's in front of you, and just accept.
Accept it as
And that could be things you perceive right now to be a problem, or a challenge, or even a tragedy. But when you look back and you get the bigger message, it was actually a divine event that you participated in.
So if if you're telling the people out there, to accept when something happens to you, accept what it is, or ask about it, pray on it. Right, just put yourself in a position of acceptance instead of resisting. Like even when it comes to the death of a family member. Right.
Some of my message, and it's very difficult for me to even get on this subject because I really haven't. Grandparents, yes, but someone very, very close to me, child, spouse, parent hasn't even passed yet. So hopefully I could walk the walk. But when a tragedy like that happens, a spouse, even a child, my message in the books have said no one dies at the wrong time. Yeah. We are trying to figure out, well, this isn't the way it's supposed to happen. Well, who are we to say what's supposed to happen, what's not supposed to happen? Because all these people come in, and our kids are not our kids. They're our responsibility. Right. Those are souls having their experience. They chose us to have this experience with. Right. If their experience perceived to be shorter than ours is, they might have had the experience they came here to have, and now they're gone. That's right. That's why. So we have to really realize that we got to look at people as souls as opposed to people. Yeah. Our kids are souls. They're having their experience. We don't own them. We don't own them. We don't own our spouse. We don't own anybody. No, you're right. No. You're right. They do choose us for whatever they had to learn in this lifetime. And I frankly don't see how, if you don't have a belief in reincarnation, how you can understand a lot of these things. Do you agree? No, I agree 100%. Yeah.
You have to get that into your head. You have to.
Our physical present is merely the vehicle that encapsulates us for us to have our experience. It's like I sat in my car to get here tonight. The car is not me. I got out of the car and I came here. Someday I'm going to get out of this body and go wherever I'm going and may come back and decide to be X, Y, and Z. I do believe you travel with the same soul group over and over.
You do.
And they play different parts in your lifetimes, and you play different parts yourself, but your soul group is much, much larger than just your immediate family.
Exactly right.
I mean, right, you and I and my wife and you. I mean, you're part of our soul group, and you finally got around to playing your part.
Yeah,
And that's the way I look at it. I mean, you don't meet anybody by mistake. That person you give up a parking place for, that might have been one of your purposes that day. You just made that guy's life a little easier. Or you held the door open for that woman going inside. Who knows? Your purpose doesn't have to be a big grandiose thing.
No,
You're not here for
right.
one purpose.
Right.
You're here for multiple
A lot
purposes.
of little things that happen.
Yep.
Exactly. What was I going to say? We have Hans Wilhelm, who's an author, and he's a very dear friend of mine, and he started studying where the same place that's how we met in the same studies. And he has a series called Life Explained series. I think I mentioned it to you. And there is one of the shows, one that he does. They're little DVDs that are anywhere from 6 minutes to 10 minutes, no longer than that. And there's one of them, the same thing, said how we incarnate with our soul family. There's certain people that we incarnate with over and over again and play the different parts and everything. And I think I mentioned him too, didn't I, when we were
I think you brought,
you might have.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to give you the address so you can look at them. You find them very interesting. They're exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so where do you think this is going to take you in the future? Do you have any thoughts or anything about future at all, or just
Me personally, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think about the future because you know what? Whatever I plan usually is altered to an extent.
Yeah.
You know, because I have goals that I have, but it's just that I'm just open to whatever comes up. Everything's an experience. I look forward to the surprise. And, you know, we can plan our future the way we want. And, you know, people work all their life to plan to retire. And then as soon as they retire, a month later, they pass away. So all their plans went out the
I mean, to
window.
laugh, that's-
So
yeah,
how
it's
much
sad.
of your planning really counts? I mean, of course, we have to plan to be responsible in this life, and our guides know this. There's a certain responsibility when we're here, living in this society, that we need to maintain. We just can't sit there. Being in acceptance doesn't mean you don't do anything.
That's right. That's a good point to bring up. Yeah.
You know, you don't just sit back. Well, I'm in acceptance. I'm just going to let things
Right.
happen. No, you have to go out and play your part and walk your path. But when challenges come up, don't resist them. Don't fight them. See what's there. See what you need to gain from it. And it takes a lot of soul searching because you know, we all have that dark side of ourselves that we have to look at, and a lot of these things bring that up.
You're right. Absolutely right. So as far as illness goes, you've been okay since that happened to you, right?
I have. I mean, I have some lingering issues that I still have to constantly monitor. But a lot of this energy work has really helped me because a lot of my physical stuff was really just emotional stuff I needed to work
It
through.
is. That's what all illness is, emotional. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So what, I think we've got about maybe 5 minutes left, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes left. What would you like to say to to our audience out there who might have some of these things happening to them, might be kind of teetering on the border, or anybody? Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Well, for me, I'd just like to emphasize that our thoughts are really important. Like, what we think of ourselves and what we put out there is what we're going to get back. So when we're more aware of what we're thinking of ourselves in any situation, you have the power to shift it if you really want to. You can shift any sort of tension that might be between you and another person just by how you're thinking of them, and you know, the vibes you're putting out. People don't realize that, you know, thoughts are energy. So if you're going to put out negative energy about somebody, you might get negative back. Whereas if you put out positive, even though you are hurt, upset, angry, if you still put out love, then it simmers the whole tension down. So it's just being aware of your thoughts, and if you really want to work on something to make it good, it's really just about putting the love behind it. Because really, for me, being spiritual is unconditional love. So if you look at everybody as a soul, and we're all here having our experience, then be an acceptance of the experience we're having, even if it's not a pleasant one, and just shift it around. I mean, I've done that with family members, and it really has helped me a lot, and them.
And it's not easy to do.
It's not.
No.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. How about like when you're on the road and somebody cuts you off and just things like that?
Well, that's my pet peeve, yeah. I'm a driver instructor for the whole state of Connecticut, you know what I mean? But, yeah.
We're not angels just because we have these spiritual beliefs. We're a long
No,
way to go to that.
not at all, not at all.
No, so nobody should expect to think you're going to act pious and you're going to be all holy and all that.
Right,
No,
right.
Not
no.
at all.
And if anything,
Not
I
at
think
all.
we have more challenges, because the more evolved we become or are, you're going to get bigger challenges, and you're going to have to recognize your trigger points and say, okay, what is really the issue here? Really looking deeper than just the situation at hand.
And you have repeated challenges come up over and over again that are similar, but basically you're being assessed that, okay, now you've evolved, how are you going to look at this situation now? How are you going to look at the
Exactly.
situation again?
Exactly.
And ultimately, she brought up unconditional love. Ultimately, that's what we're here for, to experience unconditional love and to give unconditional love.
Right.
But there's one ingredient that you need for unconditional love, and that's unconditional forgiveness.
You're
And if you
right.
cannot forgive even yourself for things you think you've done wrong or perceive to be wrong, how are you going to forgive anybody else?
You're right.
So if you can't even love yourself, here we go back to self again, forgive yourself, love yourself, then you can spread that around.
You're absolutely right. You're really absolutely right. One thing, we're going to close now, but one thing I wanted to say about that is somebody told me when I had something I had done, how could I have done that? How could I have done it, gone over and over and torturing myself? And they said, look at it this way. Now, right now, this day, would you do that same thing today? I said, no way. Now, I said, well,
There you go.
So
You got your
forgive
message.
yourself.
Learned. Yep.
yep. So
Right.
anyway, okay, it's time to give the contact information. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I know.
Fast, huh?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, it's Ken and Cathy Freschi, and their phone number, Cathy 203-915-4227, and this is your email, right?
Yes.
c.freshney@snet.net, and Ken is 203-915-2721, and his email is k.freshney@snet.net, and their website is www.soullight
Reiki.
Reiki.
see a
I put it
mistake.
together, Reiki.com. Soullightreiki.com. Okay. So you can give them a call when you want, if you want to like to get in touch with them, get readings, hear more about it, see about meetings, whatever. And for me, Rosemary Lachance is 203-627-7966. My email is whitebuffalo@comcast.net. And my website is www.rosemarylachance.com. So get in touch with us, and please pick up these books. You're going to love them. You're really going to love them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
here.
the opportunity.
Thank you. And I'm going to be part of your lives now. So,
Yes.
Lucky us.
okay. Mwah. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.